أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بفضل الله بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق الله أجمعين محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين صدق الله العلي العظيم. In Surah Yasin, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this man who came running from the outskirts of the town. And he came to help the prophets that had been sent there. And mind you, these prophets were being crucified, 3 of them, and punctured at the neck and allowed to bleed out. So the whole city was in on this. Even the people that were against it, they stood back. They didn't say anything yet. This man came running to stop them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deemed his actions so great that he immortalized it in the Holy Quran. And he commemorated it eternally in the Holy Quran. Now this man is gone and he is dead. His name is not even mentioned in the Holy Quran, and yet he is given this status by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the actions that he committed during his life. Tonight, I don't want to take much of your time, for we want to welcome our special guest, obviously, His Eminence Sayyid Ahmad Al-Kazemi, who we enjoyed his lecture last night. However, I do want to speak tonight about our dead and commemorating our dead, specifically the likes of Hajj Abdullah Al-Qadmi, Hajj Al-Qadmi, who is a person who obviously many of us were close to during his lifetime, and as the Hajj Khalil Bahsoon mentioned, that he was somebody without his support, centers like this wouldn't have been maintained. So this person, Hajj Abdullah, was a pious man. He was a good man. He was a very wealthy man. And I mention this even though his family doesn't like it when I mention that he was wealthy. But the reason I mention the fact that he was wealthy is many of us may be wealthy and many of us may not be. However, he diversified his investments. He placed his investments in the right place. Mostly with the needy. He helped Islamic scholarship overseas and in this country, and Islamic centers. However, there's a very important point that I want to bring about him. Number one, I want us all to remember our dead. Because very soon we will be of those dead. And we would like to be remembered. However, some of us don't do any actions that warrant remembrance. This person was somebody who did a lot of actions. Now, not everyone has the capability to be on the front line. You know, when we look at the mujahideen, for example, the shuhada, the people who are on the front line and they pay with their life, fi sabilillah. We don't all have that ability. But at least we have the ability to take a little bit, a small part of this. Maybe by speaking about them. Maybe by bringing them water if we don't have the ability to fight. Maybe by supporting them with our tongue, with our pockets, so on and so forth. The thing is, the majority of us are just in a state of slumber. We don't support this nor that. We're just in a state of slumber that's so bad that honestly, when I speak about these people who are deceased, founders of centers like this, I feel like I'm speaking about someone who is living, and yet myself and the people around me are of the dead. Why? Because this is the way that we act. People like Hajj Abdullah, he wasn't on the battlefield, yet he was a standard bearer. And allow me to explain. People who are standard bearers are people like Fatimiyyah Zahra salawatullah alayha. She was a standard bearer. How? Imagine at that time the whole world was against her. And yet she went that extra mile to prove the point. That she stood her ground even when nobody gave her any support. Nobody would give her support. Even when she went to ask the companions, with Amir al-Mu'mineen, did you not remember giving Amir al-Mu'mineen bay'ah? So on and so forth. And they would say, sorry, we've already given out our bay'ah. The concept of a standard bearer, and we all love standard bearers. We all love Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, salawatullah alayhi. The concept of a standard bearer is the one who leads the charge of the battlefield. That when all the soldiers are collected together and gathered together, the standard bearer is the one that goes far ahead and they only see his standard. And that becomes the benchmark for them to follow the standard and to reach the standard and to be able to increase their faith and their ability. In the era that we live in, there's so many moderate Muslims. And when I say moderate, they're very indifferent about halal and haram. In fact, you find the pious are within a circle of Islam. A circle within a circle. The pious are a circle within a circle. Why? I'll give you an example. Musical instruments. That's just one random example. We look at musical instruments. We hear the hadith. We know, for example, they're haram. We know it's better to be away from them. However, we always have someone comes up and he says, look, the marja says there's two types of music. One is, the one that's used in majalis ahl al-lahu wa ahl al-lahu, and the other type. So I can learn to play piano as long as I'm only doing the other type, for example. In other words, I don't really care, and I'll sort of just make up my thing. Or I'll just follow what the marja is saying. That I don't look at my spirituality and try and take it forward. I don't want to spend too much of your time. However, people like this were people, or a person like this, like Hajj Abu Abdullah, he was a standard bearer for these things. He was somebody who went beyond the call of duty to make sure that his family was wearing the best of hijab. To make sure that his children were wearing the best of Islamic dress, the most modest of Islamic dress. He wasn't somebody that was a alim, in other words, he wasn't a mu'ammam. However, he was somebody who would be considered of the ulama if you would speak to him and his degree and his level of knowledge. The reason that I'm mentioning this personality, obviously somebody that I was close to myself and many of the brothers were close to. However, he set a beautiful example that today is seldom found. We rarely find that example. We rarely find the standard bearer within our sisters. I'm talking about that girl that wears her hijab properly. That girl who wears her hijab perfectly, even while everybody around her is wearing half a hijab, or a moderate hijab, or a fashionable hijab, or a hijab that's questionable. But then there's one girl amongst them who is the standard bearer. She stands out further than the rest, wearing this hijab to its perfection. People look up and say, maybe we may reach this. I'm talking about the brothers that do the same thing. The brothers who pray on time regardless of what the people around them say. The brothers who maintain their Islamic apparel and appearance. The brothers who grow their beards. The brothers who don't walk in the street in a singlet. The brothers who don't walk in the street with tight pants. The brothers who don't walk in the street and try and speak to every girl that they see. This is what we're speaking about. These are the standard bearers, and there's few of them. There's few of them. These are the ones that we look up to, and they're the ones that push the whole community with them. They drag the whole community with them. Why? Because the community looks forth and it sees that these people, they're the ones that show us that there is hope. That this faith wasn't just a faith that was mentioned by a prophet 13 centuries ago and now it's destroyed, it's defeated. That this faith, for example, isn't based on, people are killing people. If I shake the hands of a woman, what's the big deal? People are killing people. If my hijab isn't up to spec, what's the big deal? For example. This is the way that we look at Islam, but within and amongst our community are people like this who are the standard bearers of the community, the standard bearers of Islam, that set the benchmark for us to follow. We need to take lesson in this. Why? As I mentioned at the beginning, tomorrow we will be of the dead. And if you think about it, if you can't be bothered getting up for Salat al-Fajr, then believe me, no one else is going to be bothered getting up for Salat al-Fajr for you. That this man who has done so much effort and so much work is remembered once a year on this mambar. At the same time we commemorate, this is similar to around the time that he died, during the martyrdom of Sayyidah Zahra salawatullahi alayha. And possibly he's remembered because, as the Sayyid mentioned last night, the door of Shafa'ah. That he was somebody who had a close connection with Fatimah al-Zahra. So of the Shafa'ah of Sayyidah Zahra salawatullahi alayha, there is this little bit of remembrance for him. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have mercy on our dead and to cure our sick. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our holy Imam Al-Jaafari al-Sharif. Wa akhir da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. May Allah have mercy upon whomsoever recites the Fatiha and gifts it towards the dead, specifically the dead who established this place, and specifically Sheikh Mehdi al-Amili, Hajj Abu Ja'far, البحراني والحج Abu Abdullah Al-Kazemi, and along with the other brothers that have died from this community. However, these were of the people who established this place. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.